This is a piece of deep color Madeira Citrine that I got from John F. out of California. John describes this citrine as a gorgeous deep orange material with a good orange/red flash. I will lose a little bit of this piece of rough because BOPIE wants a square design, and this piece of rough is more of a rectangular design. So one could use the trim saw and trim off a piece, but I think I'll just not worry about it and grind it off, as citrine is not an expensive gemstone, and if I trimmed it off, I'm going to end up with a very, very, very small excess piece. So I'm going to grind it. Now, as far as the square design, I currently don't have a favorite cut like I do for a round and a trillion, so I'm experimenting with different designs. For this stone, I believe I will cut the Lighthouse design by the late Jeff Graham. Jeff designed the Lighthouse for gem cutters of every level, including novice cutters. So this cut is suitable for a new cutter. Jeff made this design available for everyone by putting it into the public domain. I show you how to get to Jeff's old website, which is now closed, and to retrieve all of the gem designs that Jeff put into the public domain. And this is the video where I show you how to get into Jeff's old site. In addition to about 36 awesome gem cutting designs, there are numerous articles by Jeff that will aid new cutters at that site. When I finish cutting Lighthouse, it should look like the diagram below from the top, side, and bottom. All right, I've finished preforming our citrine with a topper lap, with a 360 grit topper lap, just making the preform. This is the Lighthouse design by Jeff Graham. This cut, I think any cutter, even a new cutter, brand new cutter, could cut Lighthouse, so we want to see how it turns out. I'll move on to the 600 grit, then a 1200 grit, 3000 grit, and finally we'll polish it. Probably with the dark side working fine. If the dark side gives us any problem, we'll switch to ultra laps. Okay, so after I use the 360 grit topper lap, I'm going to use my 600 grit topper, and this is the topper. Again, it's just the top. You can't use it by itself because you don't have the solid lap, but you don't pay for all the other metal that comes with a topper either. So I use my ceramic lap, which I would not recommend any cutter or new cutter buying. It's a very expensive master lap to put toppers on. Ceramic laps, about maybe half the fasteners who own them are able to get them to work properly, and they love them. The other half was a wasted investment. So I would not recommend a ceramic lap, but since I have it, it is the flattest lap that I have, so I use that as a master lap now. So the topper, this one came from High Tech. It's actually hitting its 2-year mark, so do they last? Yes. It's worn out, I need to replace it. It's getting worn, but it worked well for 2 years, so no complaints. That's all you do for your topper lap to set it up, and then you go ahead and cut with that. So here's the problem with topper laps. Because they're toppers, they're not thick, they have a slight degree of, I don't know, call it warpage. It's very small, you know, but it's there. So when you're working with them, there's a slight vibration, and it's not grinding your stone flat, as not perfectly flat. It's very close, but it's not perfectly flat. And because of that, you know, a 360 topper, no problem, because the other laps are going to make up for that difference. The 600 topper, I'm okay with a topper. 1200 level, I would not buy a topper. And anything other than that, I would not use a topper because of that vibration. I do have a 1200 grit topper, but I'm very careful with it, and I'm just waiting for my main lap, and that's why I'm stuck using the 1200 topper. I've ordered another really great lap, but it's not here yet. So let me show you the vibration that we get here. So I'm trying to get 41 degrees. And the top is just not level, so I'll get different readings at different parts of the lap, and you can feel the vibration, especially on the outer, towards the outer edge. When this number is moving, that means it's under 41. When this number is moving, it's over 41. And to get it just right, with the vibrating lap, it becomes a little bit of a problem. So again, the vibrations is going to make a very, very, very micro difference. The cuts on the stone is not noticeable with the eye, but it's not a perfect cut. So at the 600 level, that's fine, because then you're going to use the 1200 grit lap to take off another layer of the stone, and then you're going to use either a 3000 grit lap, or you may go straight to polish and take a little bit more off the stone, which will account for that vibration. But that's the drawback to toppers. So I would say do not go out and buy 3000 grit topper or 8000 grit topper. I wouldn't even buy a 1200 grit topper. I would stop at the 600 level. But I absolutely would have a 260, 200, from the 200 to 300 level toppers, perfectly fine. All right, I'm ready to polish my citrine, and I'm going to use the dark side lap with cerium oxide. So I've gone over the stone with, a piece of tissue paper towel. I usually tear it into that size piece and get a little bit of denatured alcohol, from Lowe's or Home Depot, and go over the stone, just cleaning it, making sure that that 3000 grit diamond is all off the stone. Now the dark side disc that I am using, the last time I used it was with garnet, and garnet polishes with aluminum oxide. I'm now polishing my citrine, which is a quartz, and quartz polishes with cerium oxide. So I don't know if putting cerium oxide on top of the aluminum oxide would cause any problems or not, but I'm going to take my lap and kitchen sink the regular pad that has a plastic Brillo on one side and the sponge on the other, and dish soap, and just wash it off, and then come back and charge it with cerium oxide. Okay, now I'll just spin dry my lap. Doesn't even need to be perfectly dry. Now if you really, really want to clean it, your lap, lava soap, a cake of lava soap works great. So I would recommend that if you see lava soap available in your favorite store, pick up a bar. It's sometimes hard to find. It's not the name brand that it used to be, and it's handy for cleaning laps. So cerium oxide, I could use pull out the bat stick. I could use the cerium oxide bat stick on the lap, or I could use some of my cerium oxide powder that I bought a decade ago and still have a lifetime supply of. I have a big bag of it, but I put some in the jar, so this will last forever. So I have another piece of quartz after this one to cut, so I'll go ahead and charge the lap fully with my cerium oxide, and I only have a few facets to polish here on this side of the stone. There's only 8 facets, but I'll go ahead and charge the lap fully. Okay, since I'm going to cut another piece or polish another piece of quartz after this piece, I'm going to go ahead and fully charge the lap with the powder, and then if I need another surge of cutting, polishing, I'll use the bat stick. So I made kind of I guess you'd call it a Coke spoon. You could probably buy them, I guess. I don't know. But it's good enough for what I need. I just give me a little pinch of cerium oxide and then just sprinkle it. Doesn't really, doesn't have to be 100% perfect, but get it on your lap. If you need more later, you can add more. I've started my drip, which I'm going to use the water drip of, you can see it over here. That's about the right drip, very slow drip. I'm going to use snake fluid, Gearloose product, Brother Zachary snake fluid. It's not as oily as their other product, snake oil, Professor Ignatius snake oil, which I use for the bat laps. And when I use that on the bat laps, I don't use any water. When I use this, I still use water. And if I'm using the snake oil, I only use 1 drop. But if I'm using the snake fluid, I use 4 drops. And this helps me. Really what I'm doing with this is getting a real thin coat of oil on the lap, and it melts that cerium oxide. So then, the part Popie hates, take your finger and just rub it in. It's not so bad with the oxides because it's just going to turn your finger a little bit white. When you're working with the diamond grits, it's going to turn your finger black when you get the stone residue in there. And if it gets near your fingernail, it's going to suck that black oily stuff into your fingernail, which if you've watched my videos, you've seen, unfortunately, sometimes where I'm showing you what I've just polished or pre-polished, and I've got black in my fingernails. You may not have noticed it on the videos. I can assure you, BOPIE notices it every time. So I'll go wash my finger off for BOPIE and then polish these 8 facets. And the facet is polished up that quickly. And that facet is the polished one on the girdle compared to this one. Now I use just a paper towel dipped in denatured alcohol to wipe off anything. So that one's not polished. I think you can see the difference, even with the 3000 and the cerium oxide. So again, that's how I charge a lap. I don't know if it's I doubt that I'm doing the best way. Definitely not the only way, but there's so little out there on videos to show you how to do it. This is one way. If anybody else has a better way to charge laps or something they're doing better, or just another way, go ahead and go into the comments and let us know how you're doing it. Be glad to try it out. Let me finish polishing up the pavilion of our stone. Okay, I've polished our citrine, the pavilion, and I'm going to transfer it now to transfer the dop so we can cut the upper half of the crown of the stone. And just a reminder on the girdle, you know, there's a large percentage of facetors, 30 to 50%, that do not facet the girdle. They don't spend the time to do that. They're not wrong. Okay, I'm not telling you there's only one way to do things. There's not. Just pointing out that the way I do it is not the only way. And there's others that facet the girdle at an angle instead of 90 degrees, at less than 90, 89 or so, just so the top part gets faceted so they don't waste all the effort to facet and polish this entire facet here. This is not going to be the girdle. When we cut the upper half of the crown, the girdle, and the width again is in dispute. It's between, most facetors agree, it's between 0.3 and 0.5 millimeters. Then there are another percentage that think it's 0.2 millimeters. Some that say it's a percentage of the width of the stone. Again, they're all right. I don't think anyone's wrong. You need a girdle, otherwise when you set the stone in the jewelry, it could chip. Without a girdle, there's much more likely that it will chip when your jeweler is trying to set it, so a girdle should be there. I shoot for 0.3 to 0.5. I'm fine with 0.2 millimeters. And just so you realize, the width of your fingernail, the width is about 0.3 millimeters. So that's all that's going to be faceted on that girdle. It's hard to see, that's why some people don't facet it. And all the rest that I just polished was for waste, because it's going to get cut off. So let's go ahead and transfer the stone and work on the upper half. All right, I finished cutting and polishing the crown, or the upper half of our citrine Lighthouse. It cuts and polishes very, very quickly. In fact, I got kind of ahead of myself, wasn't able to stop and take photo or video for you. So it cuts. And there's 1, 2, 3, 6 facets there, so it's one row is 2. You know, one set of instruction cuts 2 of those facets. So those 3 and you're done, and the same with the other side. Very quick. Then there's these very small facets, and they're only on the 2 sides. You can see these little tiny rectangles right there, and a little tiny kind of V-shaped at the end. And those also, I just polished them in. They're very, very small. So I apologize I didn't get more video of cutting and polishing the upper half of our citrine, but it just cut so fast. So, I was done. So apologize for that. There we go. I think this stone turned out great using the Lighthouse design. The design itself is fast and easy to cut and suitable for all cutters, including novice cutters. So I would recommend new cutters give the Lighthouse design a shot. It was fun to cut. Happy faceting, everyone.